My name is Dr. Linda Thomas. I use pronouns she, her, hers. I am a black woman who talks about herself as an out heterosexual. I am a mother, I'm a professor, and all of these identities are important to me. I really look at the overlapping identities that are often cause discrimination, and that would be my being black woman, a womanist who steps into a room claiming being made in God's image. That I will not split myself. I don't consider myself black first and woman second, or woman first and black second. I am made in God's image, and therefore God looks like me. I look like God, and that's the whole part of who I am. My ministry is a commitment to those who are the most vulnerable. As a womanist, I am anti-oppressionistic. I love my neighbor as myself. And the as yourself is something that I'm trying to live into, which means that I love myself well so I can love others properly. That's a point of growth for me. And I am compelled by Jesus Christ and his example in ministry, and see myself related to things that are on the ground while I observe macro levels and am always doing power analysis. The gifts that I bring to ministry as a black woman is an innate knowledge, meaning that I think being at the intersection of oppression means that it's more likely that I'll notice when something is out of sync for someone else who may be experiencing that which a system doesn't acknowledge, whether that's international women on campus, when the culture that they carry is maybe oppressive. I guess the other thing is one of the gifts that I bring is being able to see a forest and see each of the individual trees. And so that means that I can read systems and do that fairly well. Well, I have to bring together how I might be stereotyped as an African woman, African American woman. I can't separate those two things. And I think the stereotype would be just being no nonsense. I've had people here at LSTC, especially white men, say, "Oh, you're really nice," and you know, as though they're surprised because you know, word gets out that I'm pretty straight with folks, and I do think it's a stereotype about being, I don't know if I want to say mean. I don't know if people think that I'm a workhorse, and I will have none of that. I'm not going to take more of my load. I'm going to take what my load is, and I also expect to have equity, which means that if I, as a professor, have a number of informal interactions going on with students, many of them white, that are taking up a lot of time because of incidents of race and students, you know, who are wanting to work in that area, then I have to talk with the dean and say, are my colleagues doing this kind of work? Because if not, then I don't know why you would want me to carry this load as well as some other things. So, and equity means that equity is very different from equality. Equality assumes that we all do equal things. I try to make a distinction between this notion that treat everybody the same,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think is possible.
Right.
You know, I just think that I get viewed differently, have a lot of things going on that other folks might not be conscious
Sure.
of, and I'm not willing to say that doesn't make me more tired
Sure.
and that kind of thing. So I have to have a willingness to discuss these things. My working toward that is related to doing this systems analysis and I guess a power analysis, looking at where women and people who identify as women are mistreated or not treated equally, and how in ministry, while people think that there's equality, I think that when women are asked how they're going to take care of their children when they're in a committee meeting, that committee has to be called and say, is this the same question that you're asking of men?
Sure.
Because men may not get pregnant, but they certainly are having children, and what's to give here. In fact, I've chaired the diversity committee, and in a year that a woman who had children and was having another was asked that question, and she was so put off that she came to the committee, and we actually did some workshops and invited the person at Churchwide who was responsible for the committees, and we had a workshop on it. So to using language that is inclusive and sees people for who they are. Well, when I did my work in South Africa, that shifted a lot of things for me, so that my Christianity has been influenced by the notion of the ancestors who are present. So when I say the name Sojourner Truth, I believe that she's in the room, and when I say Harriet Tubman, I believe that she's in the room to me. So I like to tell people that I have Sojourner Truth on my right shoulder and Harriet Tubman here, and they are constantly whispering into my ears what I am called to do, because I am only here because of them and those who came before me. That means that when things happen where I work, I, at this stage in my life, am not willing to give a pass to things. And so I generally say things that are in ways that I think they can be heard, but I don't like to collude with things that continue to marginalize or minimize people. So whose narrative am I going to give privilege? I'm going to privilege those who have consistently been marginalized and say, well, there are some things that I need to do, some practices that I need to take on to not be overassured about myself. And it's being able, I feel I'm called to make things understandable to people and not be impatient. I do get impatient sometimes, especially when systems say that they are going to do things, and then when the thing shows up, they back away. So in that case, I feel like I've got to really hold and usually bring a little passion with me. I thought that this was a pretty easy thing, but I see we're still not finding this, and also recognizing that moving from minimization to acceptance can cause cognitive dissonance, meaning that people have done things this way because they've not had to think about it. So when they're called on it, they may feel embarrassed and shame, and I understand that, but that still does not mean that I'm going to collude with because you feel uncomfortable. It
Mhm.
means that I can acknowledge your discomfort, and can we now do what we talked about doing,
Sure.
and that kind of thing.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. I'm not going to keep you any longer. I appreciate you sharing all this with us today.
You're welcome.
Thank
I
you.
want to talk about my books.
Yes,
My
absolutely. Is there
other-
anyone you'd like me to pull
Well,
over?
let's look at Dr. Crumpton's.
Okay.
So I think the other thing at this being a senior scholar means that I'm really concerned about the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I'm most proud of is a series that I co-edit called Black Religion, Womanist Thought, and Social Justice. It's a series that anybody writing
Mm-hmm.
around these issues can bring a manuscript. And what's really exciting to me is that scholars who have been marginalized
Mm.
can bring a manuscript to me, and there are a number of other editors of color who can, take a book and read it, and then ask the publisher that they're affiliated with to publish. Also very proud of Dr. Stephanie Crumpton's volume, Womanist Pastoral Theology Against Intimate and Cultural Violence.
Yes.
So important in a #MeToo time.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
shout out for Dr. Crumpton.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.